Hey, we're going to get started here. Thank you. Somebody asked me if I was going to do jokes. I don't know why they thought that. That's just I'm a serious kind of guy. They're wandering in. Okay, I had to try something new. I had some handouts. You should have two pieces of paper. One is like I call it the cast of characters. It's just who we're dealing with, so I'll refer to their names and the institutions as we go along. And the other one is kind of the presentation. First of all, I want to thank Jerry for that great sermon, so I hope you guys all had a chance to let him know. Thank you. He, last time I talked to him when he preached, he was concerned about his accent being a problem for people. And I said, we have folks here from Alabama and Arkansas, so we can handle anybody else, so it's just not an issue. Okay, Brian. There we are. So this is just why I went this time and kind of our travel plan. June, we've normally gone in June before when they have the graduation for Semivida, which is the school. And then also Pastor Lewis preached or talked at the high school graduation. And then, but the main reason is the graduation ceremony and the awards for the kids. There are 6 kids traveling this summer under the auspices of HOW, the Host Orphans Worldwide. I mentioned them in that other sheet. And they're in the States now. 4 of them are in Wyoming, and 1 in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and 1 in South Carolina. I'll talk about them a little bit later. And of course, general stewardship, just to see how our funds are being spent. There's just never been any issue about that. And supporting the folks, let them know that we're praying for them and helping them best we can. And I also think they need a pickleball court. We used to go twice a year. We've budgeted for twice a year. I've been asked to serve on the board of the foundation, so I'm going 4 times a year, but the budget is covering 2 of those. It's just it's a privilege to serve. So we'll probably do this once a year, and then the rest of the time I'll give you email updates like I've done. I was there back in May. We were a little bit off just because of some travel schedules, and possibly going back in September again. So. For those of you that are geographically challenged, that's where we are. It's an hour and a half or so from Miami. I was going to complain about it took me 24 hours to get there. The flight was delayed by 8 hours. But then if I had the pointer working, I would show you where Cameroon is way over here. So getting to the DR, just not that big a deal. So bless you guys. That had to be a tough trip. So, City of Santiago, 750,000 people. We're focused on this part up here in the green called La Otra Banda, the other band. It's kind of isolated, a little bit closer here. You can see the foundation there, Papillion House right down the street. It's a finite community. So this is kind of the goal, is to reach this immediate community and get them to come to the church and preach the gospel as best they can, as well as take care of the kids. This is the better shot of the, it's a little bit old now because there's the new home that VEA, the Vision of Hope residence, is down there in that kind of cleaned off area. But you can see that's the foundation. 7 years ago, that was all woods, just like the rest of it. And now it's coming along quite nicely. This is about 100 yards away from the foundation. That's the church on the left, and then the school. This picture's about a year old also. It's cleaned up a lot better. Okay. What am I doing wrong? There we go. All right, so you see how I divided it up. That's how they're dividing it up. As you note in there, it used to be called the Mercy Net Foundation. Now they've kind of reorganized a bit. It's the Mercy Net. The foundation is just one of the programs, one of the 3 service programs. So let's just take a look at how these are organized. Okay. Oops. The first one is the home, the Hogar. We'll talk about that. That's what we mostly like to hear about, see pictures of the kids and all. And then the Vision of Hope residence, that's for young teens who have become pregnant by someone in their family. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. It's the only home like it in the country. And then finally, Vida, which means life. That's a walk-in clinic for in a couple of different communities where pregnant moms, pregnant teens can get some help. This is the foundation. Just in general, this is the admin building, the dorms, the warehouse. And that's kind of all what it looks like. If you look at how it's organized, the first place kids come to is the adaptation and quarantine area. These kids are coming from, they might be sick, they've got behavior issues, so they spend 1 to 3 months in adaptation and quarantine until they kind of get acclimated to life in the foundation. Up until last month, they were confined pretty much to one space, and that was, I got to help her. I got pictures of kids like him. That was great. The kids ate and slept and had classes in 1 or 2 small areas, and that's kind of changed. I picked this picture because Anna, there, the lady that you see, she's made this place, she's restructured it. It's just a lot better. It used to be more chaotic when I went in there. Now she's got things under control. And I just learned last week that her husband was killed by a gang in retaliation for something or other last year. So she's a mom with a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and then working there, and just pray for her, please. So this is how they were kind of crammed in there for a while. Now they've just in the last month, since I was there in May, they've restructured and remodified an area next to the multipurpose room, and the kids now have a different place to go to where they can go eat, and they have their classes that are alongside the walls there. And you hear this a lot, line up. Everything they do, they line up. Make a line. Every time you see the kids, they don't go anywhere without making a line. Just help keeping them keep in order. And there's all ages in the adaptation area, so they've got the older ones helping the younger ones. And then it's all one classroom, 1 or 2 classrooms. That little guy looks like me doing math problems, so that's Anna again. And again, all ages, and I was just really impressed. These kids, in some ways, they're more behaved than the kids in the general population. I tried to take a surreptitious picture, but that never works. Josie there has been teaching for 3 years. She's doing a great job. And the kids, they just seem really willing to learn. I keep running into these 5, 6 girls all the time. They're characters. And then again, when they're heading back to wherever they're going, always in a line. They've got their own outdoor play area. Again, they keep them separate for now from the other kids until they've adapted. Yes.
Is it just a judgment on leadership when they've adapted? Or?
Yes, pretty much. It's like an evaluation, but it's like I said, it can be 1 to 3 months. Some are better than others, or some do it quickly, quickly than others. And when they remodeled it, now they have an even nicer place to sleep. So their bedrooms are a lot nicer than they used to be. And even what appears to be the detention center is pretty decent. Those cribs look like little cages. Okay, so Mama Kangaroo is the program they started for premature babies. They're getting these kids, once the hospital has determined that they're healthy, they show up at the home if they've been abandoned. And they're healthy, they're just really tiny. And this is part of the Genesis area. This is the first place I go in the mornings before the staff usually gets there. The admin staff, I just like to see the little ones and their little premature kids. It's pretty special. This is David. He was born in April. This picture was last week, and he's up to 4 pounds now. And when I first saw him last month, he was 2 pounds. He was born at 1 pound. He was 2 pounds last month. I just was fascinated because he's so stinking tiny. My hand is on the kid. I'm not holding it above to make it. He just was, not much bigger than my hand and my wrist. So, but he's doing well. He's just very tiny. And this guy is also very tiny, but he's doing pretty well. So he's putting on some pounds, and he looks pretty healthy. Yadiel is his name. Just a few pictures here because I know this is what you like to see better than listening to me talk. I've got more baby pictures than I can count or than we can possibly have time to show you. It's just, I just spend a lot of time there because they're being well cared for. That's the key. So the guy in the middle there, that's the little one. That's Moses, and his sister Elena. They're going to be adopted by that family. This was back in May. And the young couple there with their son, and they celebrated Moses' first birthday. I was there, and they had other kids there. He's like one of my favorite kids. He's just a funny little guy. And he was there for about an hour, and then, of course, an hour later, he's back in the general population and just wondering what happened. He had all this attention, and now he's back there, back there with the rest of the kids. This is Moises last week. He's beginning training for a sumo career sometime shortly. So he's a hoot. And then the kids, and for whatever reason, they're in these, I think they need like tin cups when they want attention or something there. But there's just some of them, that's their cribs, and they seem to be perfectly content there. Just some other pictures. I try to spend a lot of time when the kids are eating. I don't often eat there because I don't like some of the food. But also, no, the real reason is I want them to have enough. That's the real reason. These are great kids. And I've gotten to know so many of them over the years. The boys' dorm, they're like the 5 to 7-year-olds, I think. That's fairly recently remodeled, thanks to the LeDuc family. And this is the only time I've ever seen these boys calm. They're usually running amok all over the place, but they're watching some kind of a cartoon that eventually was pretty good. Or apparently was pretty good because it was holding their attention. One of the empty rooms, they put pads on the floor and gave the boys rackets, and they just play. It's not any particular sport. They just bat the ball around. So they have something to do even in their dorm. This is Antonio Bruno. He's the athletic director, soccer coach. Football for some of you folks. Football coach. And he's teaching some of the older girls Italian. So he's a good guy. He's been there for several years. I didn't get a lot of outside pictures because it was pretty hot. But this young guy, I think his name is Wilson. He's always in trouble. He's mean. He just has a lot of problems. I restrained him last month when he had a couple of bricks in his hand trying to hit somebody. I helped chase him down last week when he had sticks. And I wrapped him up to keep him from hitting people. And the lady started yelling, just hold him, just hold him. And just holding on to him a while and just trying to talk softly to him. And it kind of calmed him down. But just one of the kids with some problems that keep on the prayer list. Everything I'm going to say is for prayers. So it's hard to pick out one or two things, but just a sad situation for him. This is the multi-purpose room, and there's a group there that comes. They have a lot of groups that just show up periodically and do things for the kids. This was like just a 2-hour session with them. They did some face painting, and again, helping the staff during the summer when the kids aren't in school because it's a lot of work dealing with over 100 kids. And this would be a great place to paint a couple of pickleball courts on it. So we're working on that. So these girls, when I was there in May, they just repeated everything I said. You know how annoying that is when kids do that, right? But they thought it was pretty funny, so I just went along with it. It was driving me nuts, but that's what they did. This time, they asked me to take my hat off, and as soon as I took my hat off, they started laughing. They said, put your hat back on. I put my hat back on and take your hat off. And they just start, I don't know what it was. What about me that was so funny? Knock it off, Beck. You good? But they insisted I take my hat off, and they had a good laugh over it. So, again, they're kind of my favorites. It's hard. You shouldn't have favorites, and we try not to. I know, although most of us like one of the Lara kid twins better than the other, but we try not to have favorites. But sometimes you can't help it because you get a lot of attention from them. And I'd never seen this before. This is Josephina. She's in charge of all the boys and supervises the caretakers, but she lines them up at the end of the day and asks them what they did, how they behaved, did they disobey, and then some raise their hands, some don't. But I was just impressed. It's just a nice way to end their day. So the taller one of the two is Sarah Matute. If you saw from your sheets there, the Matute family. He's the new pastor. He and his wife Frances. Sarah and her siblings are all working there, and just an awesome family. They're involved in everything. They're involved with this, involved with the church, and just wonderful people. The young girl's Eulenis. She's 14. She's been there 2 years, so she came in with a lot of problems. She can't read, and she has some behavioral issues, and she has some medical issues, and she's now with a family in Sioux Falls, South Dakota for the summer. It started off good. It went bad for a few days. The family said they want to send her back. They don't want to adopt her now. But now she's kind of reacting or responding to her medicine or whatever. So again, pray for her, because if they don't adopt her, we don't know what the future is going to hold for someone like her. So and that's true with an awful lot of the kids. If you were at Vacation Bible School, this was the group that made their appearance through the miracle of whatever Brian did here. And thank you, Brian, for doing that. He was dealing with a technical moron, meaning me, but I think it worked out pretty good. That you got a good look at what the kids, what they looked like, and they were very appreciative. We practiced it a little bit, what they're going to say, and I thought they did a pretty good job. So I hope it came out as well as could be expected for Vacation Bible School. I took I think they were the 10 and 12-year-old boys for Venezuelan burger downtown, and they don't get to eat out a lot, so this is like a pretty big deal for them with their monster burgers. That's Ranfi, another kid high in the prayer list. He was one of the 2 boys that Debbie and I had this summer, last summer, and he's got some issues. He's basically a good kid, although his behavior is, has some problems now and then. But he's not very good at school. But just he's another guy to put on a prayer list. Okay, let's look at the other projects, the service projects, and the first one I mentioned, the Vision of Hope residents. You can see the 2 folks in the back cutting the ribbon with me, the Monastinas, just incredibly generous people. They've just done a lot for the foundation and continue to do so. The far left guy is the Minister of Health, Minister of Public Health for the DR. The other guy is the head doctor, and they were there to inaugurate this residence. And this was back in January. Me and the Monastinas, I suck up to them whenever I can, hoping they'll adopt me at some point. So when I got there in January, I usually get a little gift from Olga at the end of the week, but she gave it to me at the beginning of the week, and it was that white shirt. I think she was concerned about how I would dress for the inauguration, so I wore my white shirt so she would be happy about that. This is the residence. It's the only place that you can't just get into whenever you want to, because there is some concern for the security, the safety of the girls because of family members. The people that led them to be there, the men, they are either in jail or going through the legal process. It's a nice facility. It's fairly new, but again, they're kind of stuck there they could be there for up to 2 years with themselves, the young girls, and the babies. This was the 4 girls that were there last May. The lady in back, that's Jennifer Perez. She works with them, but she is also in charge of the VITA program, the walk-in clinic we'll talk about in a bit. The nurses there are professional nurses, and then they also have a couple other people there 24/7. Just awesome ladies. They love those girls. They just take good care of them, and that's the 2 babies that are there right now. This is Emily. I took this picture in May. It was a day after her 15th birthday, and she's doing well. They do have classes for the young ladies there. This Perla, the lady that runs Papillion House, she was teaching to sew. They take other regular school classes. They were in an English class at one point when I was there in May. So they do things to occupy their time. And then Sarah, the young lady I mentioned earlier, last week I saw her taking three of the moms to be down to where the premature babies were, and they were all getting practice and some training on, and dealing with little babies. So that's good practical experience for them. There was a group in Papillion. There are 46 people from churches in the Austin, Texas area, from the South Texas Children's Home, and they were there for about 5 days. And they had different projects all around the foundation, one of which they were helping these girls paint a mural at the Vision of Hope residence. It was kind of nice. That's Sarah with one of the babies. I hope I'm not going too fast. Debbie said I talk too fast, but we've got a lot of slides to go through for their little babies. And this is Esmeralda. She just got there a couple weeks ago. She's due any time now. She was taken from Konani, the agency that deals with adolescents and kids in the DR. She was taken from her home in 2010 because she was being abused and placed in the foundation. She was there about a year, and then Konani decided it was okay to send her back to her home, and now she's 9 months pregnant. So it's just kind of sad. So hopefully things will work out better for her. They spend a lot of time with the staff, and they get a lot of advice and counseling. Just wonderful people. Okay, VIDA, which means life. It's not an acronym, it's just calling it life. This is the new location in just a part of Santiago, but it's about four miles away. And it's a ground floor. The one that you may have seen this picture, if you remember this the last time, they realized that having young ladies that are 8, 9 months pregnant walk up a narrow flight of stairs was problematic. So they are trying to find another location. This is in the place that's about 4 miles north. So they have 2 locations now. I think I put on your sheet, over 100 girls have received assistance from there, so it's going really well. They get classes, they get counseling, a little material help, not a lot, but they learn about what's happening to their bodies, they learn how to care for an infant, and it's just been a real blessing to see this. And Jennifer also conducts Bible studies, and they have had once a week, and they have had a significant number of girls come back to attend the Bible studies. One girl said she had her baby, she's 18 or 19 now, and she's taken up a desk in the pediatric wing of one of the hospitals, and she's spreading the word about VIDA to any girls that come there and need some help. So that's kind of nice. They get a goodie basket, if you will. It's enough to get them started for, probably a week or 2, which is good. But after these girls have their babies and they go back home, if they still have a home, they get no other help unless it's from the government. So it's just a sad situation. Many of them were abandoned by their families after they got pregnant, and 90% of them have no help whatsoever from the father of the child. Jennifer often is nearby when they're having their kids. So she was at this little girl's right after the baby was born, and then this one in an incubator for a few days. So she's involved with them. They often come back. They call her grandma, and so she brings the kids that are coming back to show off their kids. Jennifer's real good. I've got countless videos and pictures like this of the girls from VIDA that was just blessed to help. Some kind of a reunion they were having. I think this is like the first group of 15, 17 girls that passed through there. Okay, the next level, what the foundation or the Mercy Net, what they support. It's the school, Semivida, it's an acronym for that, and then the health clinic, which is always busy. The school was out, of course, when I got there. It was the graduation, so these are from back in May. It's a pretty hectic place. This is Janelle Phil. It's PF names I can never pronounce, but she's the director of HOW, the group that hosted all the Ukrainian kids for the past few years, and her and her daughter were there back in January. I just felt like I needed to recognize her because she's doing a lot of good things, and she has four of the kids from the foundation in her home right now. She's hoping to adopt them. The Papillion house is right there, so it was really a blessing every morning. I could go out and have my coffee and watch the kids parade into school. It just, they're usually pretty excited. They're more excited when they're coming home to school, but they chain the little ones together for obvious reasons. It's not a busy street, but there is traffic on the street, so they try to keep control of them. There's Ranfi again. When I go to the school, the classes, I've probably been in 6, 7 different times in the school. One time I saw him actually sitting in a class, an English class. The rest of the time he's either in the principal's office or he's by himself in the playground. He's just a guy I just want to keep praying for. And the kids in the little walkway that was made a couple years ago by a mission trip. That's Aliana, another one of my favorites. It is a Christian-based curriculum. The government provides some support. I think I mentioned that in there. But they have no say on the curriculum per se. The school does have to follow DR rules for accreditation and all that. And they haven't had any problems so far. Recess, always a fun time. Snack time. This is Claudia. In 2017, she was one of the crowd that came to the States for the first time ever. And she ended up going to Indiana for the summer, but Claudia and Juliana stayed with the Baileys for a couple of days. They got to know her. She got in some trouble. She had to leave the home, and then she realized she had it pretty good there. And so last year and a half ago, she came back and kind of got herself straightened out, and now she's a teaching assistant and just doing a lot better. So she's one of the success stories so far. Bianelli was going to come in 2017 and stay with the Slogers, but she broke her leg playing soccer. You might remember that. She got a job after she left the home when she turned 18 for a construction company. Wasn't happy there, so she came back and finished some schooling. She's not like an actual accredited teacher, but she's a teaching assistant also. She also has a boyfriend she met when he came down on a mission trip, and they're struggling to try to get her a visa to go up and visit the family. So, you might remember Emilio and Vanessa were here. Just how God's plan worked when we picked what kid was going to go with which family in 2017. We made some good decisions. We made some not so good, as some of you would agree with. We would have loved to have Emilio here, but we sent him to Indiana thinking the LeDukes might visit him because they're just a few hours away. That couldn't work out, but Emilio, we just hit it off really well with everybody in Indiana, and then he just graduated from Faith Christian High School down there and off to college along with Westland. So it worked out like it was supposed to. Vanessa works on the staff in their social promotions. They're doing well. Just a nice picture of Olga, the director, with Bianelli. She's like an Energizer bunny. She doesn't seem to run out of energy. She just has a lot of things going on. Sometimes maybe too much, but she's just a pretty amazing person. This was the start of the graduation ceremony. The usual bringing in the colors of the school and also the country, and I've almost got their national anthem down. Oscar and Olga, and they both had speaking parts in the graduation. They bring in all the grads. This is for the sixth grade graduation, and then also for the kindergartners, bunch of cuties. And they make a big deal out of it. I wish there was more of a crowd, but it is what it is, and the kids are happy. They used to bring the younger ones in and sit through this for an hour and a half, but now they just walk them through and let everybody clap, and a real happy one there, yeah. So, but it's just a great time. They're all dressed up. And it's just a really fun experience. The fifth graders, that's Joelle. I thought she was going to be adopted. Now they're not so sure, but there's a family that they took her for during the Christmas holidays. They took her right after this. They took her back for the summer. So there are families doing some version of foster care. It's not a government program. They don't receive any funding, but some of the kids do get to spend some time outside the home with other families. That's Frances Matute on the left. Yeah, she's the oldest daughter of the Matutes, and she's also on the staff there. Again, I can't say enough about them. This is Aliana. She was the valedictorian of the sixth grade class. She's there with Isis, the tall girl. You've seen her picture before, one of the 8 or 9 Venezuelan employees that are there. And they're like the backbone of the foundation. She gave the acceptance speech, and she also presented me with 3 different plaques, one for us, which I forgot to bring, and one for the LeDukes, and one for Faith Church. And then you see the little bags done under the counter. Those are the gifts that she also presented to us later on, and mine was another white shirt. So I'm good on white shirts if anybody needs one. So. These three kids got their academic honors. The one in the middle is one of 4 siblings that is hopefully will get adopted by Janelle and her family out there in Wyoming. Jennifer Collado, she's a sweetie. And this little girl, she was dressed better than the rest of them. She got an English award, and her parents live in the community. And so she's one of the ones that, if they're not on the staff, they have to pay tuition to go here. So she's probably a little better off than a lot of the families in the community. So it's good to see that they're able to get some of the local kids to be part of it also. The two ladies there, they're what Olga calls the ladies of gold, or the golden girls is what I call them. Just ladies from their church that help out now and then, and there's only like 3 or 4. They just don't get a lot of support from the church community there, which is kind of unfortunate, but some of them do help. That's Andrew, the little guy on the left. I have pictures of him when he was like 3 months old. He's been there since then. He had several siblings. I think most of them have been adopted by local families. He has not. He just has some issues. He's just a sweet kid, but he's probably going to spend a lot of his time there until he's older. And then they have a Japanese teacher come every year. That's Mimi. She teaches math to the kids, and her English is actually pretty good. And I don't know who she represents, but there's some kind of a contract that the foundation has with a school in Japan, and they have a Japanese teacher there every year. So that's kind of nice. And then it's very much, we joke about participation trophies or awards, but to these kids, that's kind of important. So every kid will get recognized for something. In this case, I think they were being recognized for being generous or for being helpful, something like that. So all kids get to stand up in front of the crowd and get some kind of recognition, which is a good thing. Okay, the clinic was also formally inaugurated back in January, and although it's been up and operating for a couple of years. There's a couple full-time doctors, full-time nurses. It's primary care, but when there's other issues, they can send them out to local hospitals. They make the rounds. I was watching them feed the little, that's little David getting his tube feeding. So they're pretty amazing people. They really care for these kids. This is like one of my favorite pictures. I had no idea why these 4 little guys were just sitting there. And it turns out they were waiting to get their medicine. So they were patiently waiting for medicine, which I thought was unique. This guy, one of his Dominican caregiver was not there, and he was being watched over by one of the kids from Texas, and she said he's sick. And we got the doctor involved, and he had a really high fever. And so that's Dr. Ignacio. And so they sent him off to a local hospital I think he spent the night there. I make the rounds with him sometimes, and he said there was a couple new kids, he wanted to go check them out. So we did that. The little guy in yellow, we went out to the play area, and he gave him and his brother, just a cursory look, so they were good. He'll give him a better exam later on. And then we also went and looked at Danielle. He was abused. He's 4 years old. He's Haitian. He doesn't speak any Spanish, so that's complicated for a lot of them. And he's got the wound on his head. He's got another one in the back of his head. You can't see in his right arm, but his arm had obviously been broken, and he wasn't taken anywhere to have it fixed, so it kind of sticks out funny. And we're not sure what was going on with his knees, but when the people were just trying to fix the bandages, he just tensed up because it was really going to hurt. So his little legs are messed up, but he's in good hands right now. Just sad stuff. We went back, and he was checking on the kids in the preemie area, and this lady was going on about how this little baby really had a set of lungs or muscles on her because she was like collapsing the bottle when she was taking the milk, and he wanted me to take a shot at it, and it's kind of the look I got from her when I tried. So I think she's afraid I was going to steal her milk or something, but she had an appetite. Oh boy. Sorry. This is Julie. This was taken, I think this was last month, and her mom, I think she has 2 siblings there that are in pretty good shape. Her mom was a drug addict and gave birth when she was heavily ingesting her drugs. And Julie is just not well. She's got mental issues, and they figured that out already. She has some physical issues. The doctor, he brought her out to see how she was doing. She can't walk. And he was trying to get her on. She's just kind of listless, and we've seen her playing with the other kids, but she's going to need some surgery on her hips, her legs. I'm not sure what the problem is, but just again, there's not a lot of kids there like this, but there are a few. Just very sad. All right, how do they sustain the place? Just the different. That's on your sheets there. The Alice is the seed packaging that they resell. Papillion. I don't have much on social promotion or the government assistance, but we'll just take a look at. Alice is in the only air conditioned place on the compound. Alice means wings, but it's also an acronym for protection without limits from the love of the Lord. This is, if you remember Paula that was here in 2017, Stay with the Lowers, that's their little girl, Emily. She was dancing on the loading dock because it made a nice noise. They get their seeds. Bravo Supermarket imports their stuff from California. And they're apparently making money on it because they're getting the stuff in from California. And then the staff there packages it, weighs it, and then it gets distributed out to the over 30 Bravo supermarkets. And the foundation, I don't know what the amount is now, maybe $34,000 a year. Not a lot, but it is income. That's Olimpio. He's one of the Venezuelans working there with his family. He's missing a leg. He had some issues with diabetes, but just a good guy, and his wife's in charge of all the cleaning staff. So there's prayers for all those folks there. The social promotion, basically they're just reaching out in every way they can to get volunteers, to get host families, take kids for weekends, take kids for, like I said, the foster care program they have. And obviously the foundation just functions on donations. The bulk of it comes from the Monastinas for their yearly operations. The Leducs just been awesome in what they provided for structures and for land. So that's what they're doing. These two girls, they're just volunteers. They show up once a week or so, and they just take some of the preemies and they stuck them down their shirts and hold them for like an hour. So I thought that was interesting. That's just what they do. So they just need people there to hold babies, if nothing else. The government doesn't do a lot. I think I mentioned in one of the handouts about $800 a month for some of this stuff. They do. One of the advantages of having a minister of health come to the clinic opening was he was convinced that they need a pharmacy in this area because these folks, they got to go quite a ways before they can get to a clinic or pharmacy or anything. So the government will, Olga is basically building the place. The government will staff it and provide the drugs. So now they'll have a pharmacy for the whole community right there on right across the street. That's right across the street from the main gate of the foundation. So that's going to be a big help to everyone there. The Papillion House, Hotel Papillion, whatever we call it, it's easily a 3-star hotel. It's just nice. It's just a nice place to stay. We have some problems there now and then with things like I get 20 seconds of hot water if I'm lucky. And then a year or so ago when I complained about that, and Rodolfo, the Venezuelan, came over and was messing with it. I said, well, what do you do for your hot water? He said, well, we don't have any. We can't afford it. So I don't complain about the hot water anymore. So I'm happy for my 20 seconds. That's the view out the front door. That's the girls' dorm. That's where you can go out and watch the kids parade every day, parade by. You've seen this picture before. You might recognize the bus down in the lower left-hand corner. It's still there. This is a couple of years old, but with the pointer not working, to the right of the number 1, that property was purchased by the Dukes. That house was raised, and that was turned into a conference center. So this is like a couple weeks old. So we got the conference center there. There's new solar panels on the buildings, a new roof. They painted it, and all thanks to the LeDuc family. This is looking out at the new patio area. It's just very, very nice. And this is where the mission group spent some time. The conference room upstairs, and they had their first group. They're back in April, I think. Yeah. And then so again, another money producing activity. This is the group from South Texas Children's Home, 46 of them. They had some warm-up exercises and singing, devotional before they went out to do the things they were doing that week. Had a pretty good breakfast. This is a group that showed up from the day right before I left from a church outside of Atlanta. And they're all from the Atlanta area. I got all their attention by yelling, "Roll Tide." And then they booed me, and somebody yelled out, "War Eagle," whatever the heck that means. But anyway, I got them to pose for a picture. I met them a couple years ago, so I knew the leaders and some of the young folks. And just a good group of young people. I saw these suitcases out in the lobby, and I said, "Do you need some help getting in the room?" They said, "No, that's our supplies for Vacation Bible School that we're going to have." So just a dedicated bunch of folks. And that's what the Papillion House is for, is to support stuff like that. So the new church also is going really well, thanks to Pastor Pablo and his wife and the family and the staff there. There's another picture of the grounds. And they're starting to get more and more outside members, folks that have had an association with the foundation before, as well as others. This is an older picture when it was dedicated, let's just again see what the LeDukes look like. Just wonderful folks. They become good friends of Debbie and I as well. Just good people. The South Texas Children's Home folks, they set up a kind of a clinic in the ground floor of the church just for the local community. What the pastor's trying to do is obviously incorporate stuff for the foundation kids, but he also wants to have stuff just for the community kids, for the community people. The staff members, there are some staff members on the foundation that live in the community, so they're trying to have some things just for them, so they know that they matter as well as the foundation. So they had a little, just kind of a consultation clinic, I suppose, and they were just talking to folks, see what help they might need. And then they purchased some drugs locally and were passing out over-the-counter drugs to the people that needed it. So that was just a real good effort on their part. The church held a summer bazaar back in the end of May. It was like a big garage sale that they collected from different folks and selling things at reduced prices to the community. They had a summer camp that just concluded, and Pablo just sent me some pictures yesterday. It had a space theme, and they had the South Texas folks were building some kind of a rocket ship. I wasn't sure how that was going to turn out, but anyway, they eventually moved it out of the church out into the yard, and I guess it went pretty well. And Pablo said I forgot, they put up another swing set, and this is another rocket thing that the kids got to stick their head out the little window and get their picture taken. So it was kind of cool. And they advertised it to the community. It was 1,000 pesos for the week, which it's about $17 or $18, and that was too much for some of the families, so they did get some other donations to help. So they got most of the kids that wanted to attend the camp last week, got to attend, and then they're going to be doing this for the rest of July, so we pray that goes well. And they don't have any swimming pools anywhere else in the community, so kids got to enjoy some of that. That's good, folks. Sunday morning, I ran into some Julio on the right. Julio Padilla, he's one of the Peruvian guy, graduated from the seminary that we supported some years ago, and he's married to Itzel, who used to be the deputy director of the foundation. They now are part of this church. The guy in the middle is Alberto, one of the Venezuelans, his daughter and her husband, and he's got a couple kids there, all work for the foundation. The guy on the far left is Esteban. He's in charge of a group home for the oldest teens at the foundation, boys that are 17, 18 years old. He grew up in Santo Domingo, was part of a gang, and because he was part of a gang, he doesn't take any grief from these kids. He can handle himself. And he's doing a really good job there with these young boys. He led Sunday school. He was going around asking them about whether they disobeyed anybody this week. That was his lesson. And Pastor Pablo was making the announcements. He sometimes preaches. Pablo is Honduran, and he and his family moved to Santo Domingo some years ago, and then they ended up in Santiago. This is Frances Matute. She spent 10 years in the U.S. Army. She was a combat medic, she has 5 jumps out of an airplane, and she said she wet her pants every time. So she felt the need to share that story. She just kind of, we did just learn she's got some health issues, something in her brain. We're not sure what it is, but she's kind of taking some rest now, and she's spending more time with church functions and not so much for the foundation. So hopefully she'll be back to normal here in a few weeks. But just pray for her, because they're just an awesome family. And Pablo teaches Sunday school sometimes if somebody doesn't show up. And that's Matute's oldest daughter again. I'm picking up the pace here because I'm worried about our time. This is Arlenis. She showed up at church. I hadn't seen her in a year or two. She's the one that Pastor Lou mentioned 2-3 weeks ago that we knew when she was 10, 12 years old. And she moved out of the home after a couple of years and lived with an aunt, went to college, and I think she's doing reasonably well. So she said to say hi to everybody and to thank you for what we all did for her and her time at the foundation. Kids don't have to stay for the worship service, so they get to go back and in their little carts. They all dress up, so they have coffee break. This is the coffee. We had one little pot of coffee for all the adults, and that was my cup of coffee they gave me. It's the size of it's a plastic shot glass. So when nobody was looking, I had like 7 of them. Yeah, worship service. We had a pretty good crowd. And that's Alberto, the son of the other Alberto. He and his wife were seminary grads some years ago, and they were married in a civil ceremony in Venezuela. Before they left. But he wanted to have a church wedding. So last year they had the first church wedding, first wedding in this church, and it turned out pretty good. So they were pretty happy about that. A really nice couple. Dr. Hans is an orthopedic surgeon in the area, and he's also an ordained minister, and he preaches about every other Sunday. Orthopedic surgeon, so he was real happy about the idea of having a pickleball court, because he's counting on more adults hurting themselves like they do here. So this is why the church is there. This lady, Marcia, she works at the warehouse at the foundation. They live right behind the Papillion, her 2 boys, and they're at church. And they're one of the first local people to start coming to church regularly. Her husband's in the National Police, and so he travels a lot. So it's just really good to see folks from the community come to the church, because that's why it's there. The Matutes need to move. They don't have enough room, and this is where they lived last time I was there. They don't have any furniture other than bedroom furniture. Their kitchen table is like one of the folding tables we have for donuts and stuff out there, and plastic chairs. But their home is basically a community center for the kids and for the adults. Since they don't have a living room furniture, they have room for a neighbor to park her motorcycle in their living room, because it's not secure on the outside on the street. But the Ledukes have offered to fund a parsonage for the foundation, and so we're hoping that they'll get to move there in the next year. This is the land that was purchased. The house on the left is not big enough, so they're going to build in the lot there with all the trees, the jungle area. They're going to make a 2-story home. That's going to be a parsonage, and hopefully the Matutes will be able to move there in the next year. And I think it'll be a real blessing, because their house is like I said, it's like a church community center. The seminary, we mentioned before how the structure has changed. I just went and visited briefly just to see how they were doing. Pastor Juan Jose sent us thanks again. We funded the first 2 sessions, 5 one-week sessions every other month through December. They hoped to get 40 students. Now they're all just from the DR, maybe from Haiti, but basically local, not from other parts of South America like before. And it's going real well. Their focus has been on biblical counseling. The Rocha's church, Pastor Rocha, they get calls regularly from other pastors needing help with learning how to counsel people in their flock. So they've been providing some assistance on that, and that's been going real well. And Juan Jose again asked me to send his thanks to everybody for what you're all doing. So that's Eulenis. That picture was taken about just right after she got to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the family she's staying with. And again, we're hoping that's going well. The challenge is this was the original plan for the foundation, keep the kids there till they're 18, they learn a trade, learn a useful skill, get reinserted in society, and they'll be happy. Maybe they'll get adopted, or maybe they can get reunited with their families. It's not working all that well for a lot of reasons. There have been some successes, obviously. We've mentioned a few. Paula, she's also teaching assistant at the school. Her and her husband living in the area, doing real well. These three young ladies, with Isis, the taller one, holding on to them, that's Maria Jose, was Haitian girl, spent most of her life in the foundation, didn't have a birth certificate, so she couldn't get a passport, never got to travel. Finally, she got her cedula, the national ID card, a year ago. She works in the warehouse. Maria Cristina, who stayed with the Hetzlers in 2017, she left. She got herself fired from the nut house, as we call it, where they make the nuts. And then she decided she wanted to come back, and now she's trying to become a teaching assistant also and be an ally. So these young ladies are doing pretty well. This is Westland and Emilio with the Arochas at their graduation in May. Emilio got to speak at the graduation of the school last week, and he again said to tell you all thank you for your support for him. He and Westland. Emilio also won a academic award, so he did pretty well considering a second language. The Roaches were there to see that. And they both got scholarships to Cedarville University in Ohio. They got scholarships for tuition. They need somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000 a year each for room and board, so they're working on raising funds for that. But they were exceptionally bright young men, and that's just not the norm because so many of these kids come with so much disadvantage. Edwin there on the left, we've talked about him before. We went to the private high school of the Rochas Church, their graduation on Friday night. Me, Edwin, Adriana, an American lady that works down there, and Emilio. We thought Edwin was going to get an academic award. He didn't. He had straight A's. For some reason, we're not sure what happened, but he was not recognized. So he was kind of bummed out. But he's doing well. Edwin was accepted to go to faith school, but as yet, he doesn't have a family that will host him. This is Geoffrey and Francesca Alejo. They're Westland's younger siblings. They're also smart kids. There's a family in West Virginia that wants to adopt them, but they can't yet because they haven't been married long enough. They're hoping to take them this school year, but then they work for a hospital that was shut down, so now they have to wait till next year. But they're gonna be going to school in the U.S. probably next school year. These four guys, they're four of the young men that live in the group home right outside the wall. Victor, on the left, he's going to be adopted by the family in Wyoming, but his behavior, they just couldn't do it. The adoption agency would not approve it, so we're not sure what's going to happen to him. The taller one, Noe, his last day at the foundation was the day of the graduation. He failed the school year and didn't seem to care, and so he was sent back to live with his grandparents. The guy in the far right, Luis David, he was also here with us in last August, and he's had a couple jobs, a couple hardware stores in town, people that know the Roaches, and he's kind of lazy. He just doesn't seem motivated. We're not sure what's going to happen to him. The guy in the neon shirt, Jose Miguel, he was accepted also by Faith School, and we just heard just 2 days ago there is a family that will take him. So he's off to Faith in Indiana in August. So that's good news. Ranfi, Betty, do you recognize your bicycle there? That when Ranfi was here, we went bike riding. He's just a good kid. He liked to help, but I just don't know what the future holds for him. I just really worry about him. But we had a good time with him when I was here. This is the new plan, and this was a little controversial. None of us like it, but this is what's going to have to happen. They're not going to take any kids after age 6, and then once they start getting to age 8 or 12 for the boys, 7-year-old girls, they're going to be sent elsewhere if they have not been adopted or taken in foster families. I don't think this is going to happen immediately because she's not going to just throw them on the street, but that's the plan. The idea being that the younger ones have a better chance of getting adopted than the older ones. So that's why they're going to this. There's a lot of reasons why it happened. Some we understand, some we don't. There was another foundation, a smaller one, near Santiago that was shut down, and everybody lost their jobs because of accusations of a staff member engaging in inappropriate behavior with one of the residents. The investigation showed that that wasn't quite what happened, but the result was this place was shut down. They all lost their jobs. So they're running scared here because there have been some concerns at our foundation. There have been some inappropriate behavior, and kids have been sent away because of it. But for a lot of reasons, these kids just weren't ready for life yet. So they're going to be sent to other places once they get a little bit older. So that's like a major request, and there's not a lot we can do about it, but we didn't like it. So we mentioned adoptions. We've talked about that before. It's real hard to adopt. If you're from the U.S., it's just hard to adopt kids because you need to live down there. They say it could be only 2 months or 3 months. We think it will be longer. You're just relying on the judges and the court system, as well as just the normal process it takes for adoption. Janelle and her family adopting the 4 kids. This is going to be the test case, as well as we see what happens with Yelenis and another boy who's in South Carolina. In 2022, Konani said there were 121 international adoptions, like 119 of them, I think, were like Italy and Spain. Europe, the families get longer vacations, and so they're capable of coming and spending some time in the States. Olga visited back in April. The Roches and the Monastinas visited some Italian institution it's made up of families that want to adopt kids, and their plan is to come to the DR and meet the kids there and decide if they're interested in adopting, as opposed to having the kids go to Italy for the summer or whatever. So we'll see how this works. I don't know how far along the plan, but that's the plan right now. And I mentioned Jose Miguel and Edwin next year. Young man named Augustine. I wish I had a good picture of him. He's not going to qualify for the Christian school based on his grades or his English, but he's probably one of the best young soccer players in Santiago. So the Christian school, like other schools, he's probably there on a soccer scholarship. So we're hoping for the best for him. He's a good young man. He wants to do the right thing with his life. And however he gets to get to school, we just hope and pray it works out for him. So, prayer requests. Everything I said is a prayer request. I think specifically the adoptions for the Collados and for Winnie and Yelenis especially. And then, of course, Francis's health. And then the health of the staff. The doctor pulled me aside. We talked for about 45 minutes. There's just a lot of burnout there. These folks, we say, yeah, it's 102 degrees there, but they're used to it. Well, yes and no. It's still hard to work in 102 degrees, whether they're used to it or not. So they're just, they work a lot of hours. There's a lot demanded of them. Most of the ladies on the staff are single moms that have to worry about their own kids, back at home somewhere in Santiago. It's just hard work. So just be thinking about that as we move forth, we move on. So I think that's it. We can entertain. Oh, not too bad. Entertain. Anybody have any more questions? Yes. Oh, go ahead.
So, Randy, on like when the kids get sent, are they all boys or all girls? So do you know where those are or what they are?
No. So right now there is a boys' home with about 15, 16 boys in it, I think. That Konani is in the process of maybe closing or shifting ownership, and now she's talked with Olga. Olga may absorb that as part of the foundation. It would be just for boys. This problem of keeping the boys and girls apart, it's a way bigger deal than we could possibly imagine. It's just hard to do, just because sin is what it is. It's just hard to do. So the answer is maybe, but right now that's not sure. The girls' home, I have no idea. When I asked her, I said, are you going to try to send them to any place as good as this? And the answer is, there is no place as good as this. And that's true. Some of the staff have visited some of the other homes for kids around. None of them are this is the first or second largest in the country. Most of them are just a lot smaller, and they're just not very nice places to live. This is a nice place to live, has its drawbacks, but they're in better shape here than about anywhere else. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was wondering if you heard they have any major damage or anything, that's hurricane or something?
No, what they usually get is a lot of rain, just tons and tons of rain, you know, like we had here only. But they're just kind of used to that. They haven't had any hurricane damage, I think, before, but high winds in hurricane season, and they all have their emergency vests on the back of their chairs, the staff. They've all got their instructions on what to do. There's evacuation route signs all over the place, and they got places to take the kids. When they do have the threats, they have them, but they've not suffered from that yet, but just mostly a lot of rain. So. Yes, ma'am.
So like, you know, I don't remember what it's called, where they take in the girls that are having the babies. That one. Which is obviously a new kind of step, right?
Yes.
I'm just curious why, maybe I'm not understanding, why there wasn't a prioritization of, let's make a girls' home for these girls.
I don't know, other than there was the need for, and Olga got the idea for the Vision of Hope. Now, we're talking about the residents where they actually spend the night. The Vita Clinic is just walk in, walk out, get some help, and, you know, hope for the best. This is the residents, but they got the idea from a similar home in Lafayette, Indiana, that Faith Church runs. And yes, there is an idea, perhaps, to construct, and I'm sorry, Nick, I forgot this when you asked your question. Thank you, Melissa. There is a plan, an idea to maybe construct a girls' home back behind where this residence is, because it's away from, it's more secure, and it will be harder. I'm not saying impossible, because these kids are amazing. It'll be harder for boys to get over the barbed wire fencing, or vice versa. It really works both ways, believe it or not. And yeah, so there's an idea, but I'm not sure where it's going yet with that. But the answer is I don't know, but I think they thought about it, but right now we don't know. I just don't believe. I mean, some of the staff was surprised. This plan I showed you, that was May in the staff meeting I went to, the board meeting, and the staff hadn't even digested this yet. In fact, one of Adriana, the American girl, she was in the States, and she said, "That's not the plan I have." I said, "Well, it's the new plan." So, but I think I think it'll take a couple of years or more to get it to happen. They're not just going to kick these kids out. So, yes, Joe.
Brandon, you said when the kids turn 18, they have to leave. Where do they go?
Well, you know, the answer is wherever they can, and I wish I had a better answer, but that's not the foundation rules, that's a government rule. So they go, in most cases, they're going to go back to a family member. We talk about, people call it an orphanage, maybe 10%, maybe 20% are actual orphans. The rest of them were taken from their families for a good reason. The one boy that failed the school year, he's going back with a grandparent. So, yeah, they usually try to find a family member, but that's not always easy to do either. If they don't, I don't know what they do with them. So, yes, sir.
Is there a plan to ever get that bus moved off that piece of property?
It's no longer our concern. No, it's a good, because we laugh about it, because they thought we thought they bought the property. And that was then some years ago. Then literally a lady was running on the street, "That's my property." So there were two conflicting deeds. It was a real mess. Olga had painted the bus, made a big planter out of it, and moved it, made that whole area a nice courtyard. The lady that owned it got mad. She walled the thing up, and it was just one of those weird. I can't see it anymore because the way they got the roof on it. So I was able to see it back in January, but it's still there, and we don't know what they're going to do with that property. I don't know if she's holding out for a better deal, but they're not interested right now. They got all the property that they can use, but yeah, the bus is just still there. So yes. I think I might have that somewhere, 130, 140 maybe, something like that.
And the new moms, the teenage moms, how many girls?
There are 5 there, and it can house up to 24 moms and 24 babies. Anything else?
Thanks, Randy.
Okay, Jim, I'm done. Thank you for your patience, and Jim's going to close for us, please.